My friend, how are you doing today? Welcome on today's show. You might ask yourself, why is this book called the Book of Wisdom? Well, tell me, where else can you get such precious words like the ones I'm about to share with you? Listen. Blessed are they whose ways are blameless, who walk according to the law of the Lord. Blessed are they who keep his statutes and seek him with all their heart. They do nothing wrong, they walk in his ways. You have laid down precepts that are to be fully obeyed. Oh, that my ways were steadfast in obeying your decrees. Then I would not be put to shame when I consider all your commands. I will praise you with an upright heart as I learn your righteous laws. I will obey your decrees. Do not utterly forsake me. That is from Psalm 119, 1 going down. My friends, what's amazing about those words is that they were written by a king of back then, a king of many people, not child of God. The aim of this video is to spread love and peace to the whole world. Together with you, my friend, we shall be reacting through videos, mind-blowing videos, other mysterious videos. I don't have to say much about the videos. Let's dive in. Yeah. One more thing, my friend. We always talk with our maker before we dive in. Let's give thanks to this wonderful creator. You see? Dear Lord Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your love and goodness. Father, thank you for the words from the book of wisdom. Thank you for your precious child that has joined us today, Father. All glory and honor belong unto you, dear Lord. Father, as you react to these videos together with your child here, may you guide us all through, Father. May this viewer be blessed, Father. May you renew their souls, Father. Give them strength, Father. May your blessings and love reach them from wherever they are watching from, Father. And as we reach the end, dear Lord, you shall have done great things for them. In your holy name, Jesus Christ, we pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Let's dive in.
This is how highly intelligent individuals recognize other highly intelligent individuals. It's this one trait, which is curiosity. Highly intelligent individuals are so curious and they love to learn and they keep learning all through their lives. And often, even though they would know that they are right about something, they are still willing to hear the other perspectives on matters. Of course, this depends whether they think that the other person's opinions are worth their time, but quite often they are willing to learn more and understand more. This never ever seems to stop. Like the father of my best friend, she was studying math in the university here a couple of years back, and her father, who is in his 70s, 80s, wanted to do all of the homework that she did all through the university studies. And they would do that together. And I love him. He's so funny. He's so intelligent. And I feel like he has the best stories to tell because he's learning all the time. Highly intelligent individuals are also interested in learning from other people and learning from their expertise. And for me personally, meeting somebody who is an absolute expert in their field is just very, very interesting. I get a lot of intellectual stimulation from those individuals. And I feel like being curious and learning all the time is a great way to get intellectual stimulation, which is probably something that a lot of highly intelligent individuals have already noticed. They feel better when they are using their brain, getting that intellectual stimulation and learning.
Very interesting comment. It says, my son always told me that when he wasn't born yet, there was a man who told him that he had to choose his parents before he could go to Earth. He told me that it looked like windows and that he saw different parents behind the windows and that he could choose which parents would give him new life lessons. And he's now 18 and doesn't remember it. But this comment under it says, my daughter told me something very similar. This is actually very common. I've received thousands of comments from people whose children remembered what happened before they were born. And what makes it even more interesting, in this book, Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton, he brings 7,000 people under hypnosis over 25 years. And while under hypnosis, they describe everything that happens after they died in a previous lifetime, including looking into future lifetimes where they can choose their parents, and then making that choice to live that lifetime that's going to help them learn the most lessons in this life. So that means this life that we're living isn't just random. We actually chose this specific life. And so my question for you is, how's your choice? How do you like your life? Are you learning the lessons? Do you feel like there's a lot of bad stuff happening to you? Do you feel like everything's happening for you? Are you using every situation to evolve and grow? Drop it in the comments. I would love to hear how this life is going.
As a dermatologist, this is what your nails can tell me about your internal health. Clubbed nails look like this and can be a sign of lung disease. If you're missing your lunula, which is this moon-shaped white part of your nail, I'd be worried about anemia. When I see spoon-shaped nails like this, it's a common sign of iron deficiency, but it can be normal in a third of infants. Comment if you want part 2.
Guys, so I did cupping on my forehead because I was bored. Look how dark that is. I'm literally afraid.
Hopefully you didn't have any plans in the next 2 weeks that didn't include having a giant red circle on your forehead, because that's how long that bruise is going to be there. So if you're unfamiliar with cupping, these are devices that apply suction in a localized area. Basically, they give you a big old hickey. Cupping can produce these kind of marks anywhere on the body, but it is especially problematic, as she's finding out, when you put them on your face or directly over like a hard bony surface, because there's just not a lot of area for the tissue to move around, and so it tears open these tiny capillary beds that run through your skin. These breakages allow blood to leak out of the vessels and infiltrate the tissue around them. And your blood has a pretty unpleasant customer riding around inside of it, which is hemoglobin, and it is not easily broken down because of the iron inside of it. Specifically, as the red blood cells are broken down by the immune system, it moves to bilirubin, which is sort of a yellow-orangish color, to biliverdin, which is green. And then when they kind of mix together, you get this kind of gross brown color at the end. Now, people who offer cupping as a service will tell you many different stories about why you should do it. But in the end, remember, it's just tissue damage.
5 terrifying realities of a widespread prolonged power outage. When the power goes out, most people think about candles and flashlights. But if it stays off, everything changes. Share this with everyone because most of you aren't ready. Here's what it would really look like. No more cell service. Your phone might still power on, but it won't do you much good. Cell towers rely on electricity and backup generators that won't last long. No calls for help, no social media, and no news. No more showers, no flushing toilets, no fresh water from a tap. Why? Because water systems rely on electric pumps. Even if you have your own well, the pump is electric. Imagine days or weeks without clean water. Diseases will spread, hygiene becomes a nightmare. Are you prepared to find and purify water yourself? Gasoline will become more valuable than gold. Without electricity, gas pumps won't work. And once the stored fuel is gone, it's gone. No cars, no generators, no escape. People will fight over the last drops. Are you ready to defend what you have? When the trucks stop running, stores don't get resupplied. No food, no medicine, nothing. And it won't matter anyways. Stores will be looted and abandoned within days after a disaster. What will you do when there's nothing left on the shelves? Without power, the world as we know it will fall apart. No banks, no hospitals, no police. People will get desperate. Neighbors will turn on each other. Those that didn't prepare will come for those who did. Will you be able to protect your family? This is the harsh reality. Are you ready for it?
There's a region of space, over 300 million light years across, where there is almost nothing. If you zoom out and look at the universe as a whole, you can see that galaxies form into massive clusters and connect together to form the cosmic web. In doing so, they leave massive gaps of what is essentially nothing. These gaps are called voids, one of the largest of which we know is the Boötes void. There should be thousands of galaxies in this void, and there's 60 there. If you were in a spacecraft in the center of this void, away from any of those galaxies, you could travel for hundreds of millions of years at the top speeds achieved by humans in any direction and see nothing. If you looked out your window, it wouldn't look like this. It would look like this. If you were in a spacesuit floating in this void, you would not be able to see your hand in front of your face. There could be a person, an entire planet, an object flying at you at lethal speeds, the worst horrors of your nightmares right in front of you, and you would have no idea.
Okay, for my visual learners. So, this is how cousins once removed and twice removed works, okay? That's you. Those are your siblings. These are your first cousins. Those are your second cousins, and your third cousins are over there in the corner, right? Y'all are on the same line, which means you're the same generation. Obviously, you and your siblings and y'all are the same generation, okay? Your first cousin's kids are your first cousin once removed. Why? Because you're here in this generation. They are down here in this generation. They are one generation removed from you. Another example, those your parents, that's your mom and daddy, okay? Your aunties and uncles, they're siblings, all right? They're the same generation. This is their first cousin, same generation. But to you, that's your first cousin once removed. They are one generation removed from you. So your parents' first cousins are your first cousin one generation removed from you. This is your generational line. They're up here. They're one generation removed from you. Okay? Now, first cousins right here. Y'all share a grandparent. You see up there? Y'all share a grandparent. Second cousins share a great grandparent. You see it up there at the top? Third cousins over there in that corner, you can't see my finger, y'all share a great grandparent way, 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 way up there at the top. That's how this works. So this is you. These are your kids, okay? Your kids are the same generation as your niece and nephew and your first cousin once removed. Your child is second cousins with your first cousin's kid. Why? Because your child shares a great grandparent with your first cousin's child, with your first cousin once removed. Your grandparent is your child's great grandparent. Your grandparent is also your first cousin's child's great grandparent. So they are second cousins because they share a great grandparent. To make a long story short, but y'all can look at this chart and you'll notice something. This stops at third cousin. Why? Because beyond third cousin, it gets real distant. Somebody was in the comments and they was like, I know my eighth cousin. I'm not saying you lying. I'm just saying that the more likely scenario would be that you probably know your grandparents, cousins, brothers, like, and it, you think that you know your eighth cousin, but it's probably not true because that's quite distant, y'all. So I hope this helps.
This is what would happen if you traveled 1 billion years into the past. Shorter days, no visible life, noxious gases in the atmosphere, bombarded by deadly ultraviolet rays from the sun, with black sludgy oceans and barren land. The Earth just entered the Neo-Proterozoic era, and this is how long you'd be able to survive here. Everyone knows the survival rule of 3, stating as a general ballpark that we can survive about 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 hours without shelter in extreme environments, and 3 minutes without air. There's obviously exceptions, but it's a generalization. Let's run through that survival list and see how long you'd last on old Earth. Before we can do anything, we still have to be able to see. So will the sun still be there to give us light? Yes, it would, but a typical day would be around 18 hours instead of the usual 24, so we'd have to adjust to that. That is, if we can even survive until then, so let's start with food. Plants and animals, as we know today, basically don't exist yet at all. The Cambrian explosion, a period of rapid evolution that resulted in a lot of new forms of more complex life on Earth, wasn't set to happen for at least another 500 million years, so there wouldn't really be much to eat. Life existed pretty much only in the ocean, as simple, single, or even multi-celled organisms, and possibly some basic plants like algae. Yup, floating bacteria in the ocean is pretty much all we got for dinner. What about drinking water? How were the oceans like? Well, we actually kind of know exactly what they were like. Scientists found 2.7 billion year old water under Ontario, Canada, that remained untouched by our atmosphere for at least 1 billion years. They took it up to study, and one brave soul soul actually tasted it herself and it was nasty. Saltier than today's oceans, thicker than regular water, and it also turned orange when exposed to oxygen. This is what we call primordial soup, thick water filled with the early forms of microbial life. Great for kickstarting the theoretical process of evolution, not so much for drinking. What about shelter on old Earth? Could we at least protect ourselves from the elements? Well, a billion years ago, Earth would have been pretty flat. Big mountain ranges haven't had the chance to form yet on our shifting plates, so finding caves to shelter in would prove difficult. All land on the planet was a collection of land masses crammed closely together, forming the supercontinent of Rodinia? Yeah, not even Pangea, that wasn't set to form for another 700 million years. We've actually had a bunch of supercontinents on Earth, like Columbia, Rodinia, Pannotia, Gondwana, and then finally, Pangea. In this case, it was Rodinia, surrounded by a superocean named Morovia. In these days, massive super earthquakes and super volcanoes were the norm, from how close together the tectonic plates were all grinding up against each other, so you'd be dealing with that as well. Microscopic food, salty thick water to drink, and barely any shelter. Things aren't looking so good. How about air? Could we at least breathe out here? The air was technically breathable, but only for a few minutes due to the low concentration of oxygen before you'd pass out. Oxygen levels were at about 2%, while today we're at 21%, so breathing would be difficult. And there would almost definitely be some weird airborne microbes in the air that our bodies aren't used to and would us if we inhaled them. Not to mention the ozone layer wasn't set to form for another 400 million years, so the sun's radiation would very quickly fry you too. If the heat didn't get you first, as the average global temperature could have been anywhere around 50 degrees Celsius, but they're really just guessing here. The only thing that would be the same as it is right now is gravity, our friendly universal constant. But this is really all just a scientific guess at best. In fact, we're missing about 1 billion years of Earth's history, during which time we don't really know what happened. When dealing with these timescales of hundreds of millions, billions of years, we look at the geological record for study, core samples, and rock layers. The deeper we go, the further back in time we are, and newer, more recent layers get stacked on top. We can analyze these layers for their chemical composition and find out what the Earth was like during a specific era. But all over the entire world, there's an abrupt missing section of layers, and we have no idea why. Known as the Great Unconformity, best exposed in the Grand Canyon, where you can find Cambrian-era rocks about 500 million years old, stacked directly on top of Precambrian rocks about 1.7 billion years old. That's 1.2 billion years missing, right in the middle of which we'd find Earth 1 billion years ago. Yeah, I know it's a lot of math, but basically we have no clue what it was like.
None of you realize how weird this is about to get. If you couldn't tell what was going on in that clip, I will explain it, but let me say, we are the last generation for which the stuff in our house is not alive. This is a prototype lamp made by Apple that has AI, but doesn't just let it respond to voice commands. This AI in this machine lets it get sad when you disagree with it. If you set an alarm for it to remind you to drink water while you're working, it won't just sound a tone, it will nudge your water glass to you using its lamp snout. When you play music in the kitchen while cooking, it will dance along to the songs. I am telling you right now, when it comes to AI for the average person, this is where the money is. It does not take much at all to convince us that an inanimate object is alive. If you just stick googly eyes on a Roomba, most of us will get upset if a guest kicks it. But the next generation of children will be raised in homes in which they will treat many objects as members of the family. Ask all the parents who bought Moxie, an AI-powered toy that then went dark when the company went out of business, and then had to talk to their kids, not like a toy had stopped working, but like a pet had died. I am dead serious when I say that most of the people watching this video will live long enough to have an argument with your car. You are going to feel some measurable amount of distress because you think your refrigerator is mad at you. You will absolutely know someone whose best friend is their lamp. And all of these will be available for a one-time purchase to get the object, but to keep it alive, that will be a subscription.
You're telling me there's people out there who don't need an hour to wake up after they wake up. They just open their eyes and start doing things? Like, I don't think I believe you.
Oh my God, that's what Trump is doing. It all makes sense, and it's not looking good for you people in America. I hate to make another Trump video, but I just couldn't help myself. So let me tell you what's going on, what Trump is doing. Let's start with this quote from the early 1930s. The US Treasury Secretary Andrew Mellon, he was a billionaire businessman who had the ear of the president, and he told the president, liquidate labor, get rid of it. Liquidate stocks, let them crash. Liquidate farmers, let them go out of business. Liquidate real estate, let the whole thing go to dust. This, said Andrew Mellon, will purge the rottenness out of the system, and the high cost of living will come down. But why did he say liquidate the entire system? What would be the point of that? He said, quote, people will work harder, end quote. He said, quote, enterprising people will pick up the wrecks, end quote. Trump and those around him, the plan is to gut the US like a pig. This means everything federally owned. This means letting stocks collapse. And ultimately, why he admires Putin so much is because this entire systemic collapse is what happened to the Soviet Union 30, 40 years ago. And out of the ashes of the former Soviet Union rose the oligarchs, the 0.111% who own everything. To be fair, this is also what Naomi Klein described in her book, The Shock Doctrine, where this exact same thing, this implosion of an economy, was done in Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, Poland, South Africa, the former Soviet Union, and elsewhere. In fact, there's a joke in her book that I've always remembered. It was, why has there never been a coup in the United States? And the answer is because there's no US embassy in the United States. But instead, there's now Trump and his team are looking to get rich, destroy everything, and then buy up everything and keep everybody working harder, as Andrew Mellon would say. You're welcome.
No one ever told you this about physical touch in marriage. Physical touch isn't just about affection, it's about emotional safety. When you stop reaching for each other, you don't just lose closeness, you start to lose trust. Your body and brain are wired for connection. When you're in a marriage where touch becomes rare or transactional, your nervous system registers that as distance. And over time, that distance turns into disconnection. Think about the last time you felt completely seen, safe, and connected with your spouse. Was touch a part of it? When physical touch is missing, small conflicts become bigger. And intimacy, both emotional and physical, starts to fade. But when touch is intentional, it lowers stress, it creates security, and it signals, I choose you, even in the hardest of moments. Drop a heart below if this resonates with you, and let's start the conversation about how to begin rebuilding physical touch in your marriage.
What can you tell about a person just by looking at their face?
The first thing that you want to notice about a person's face is what are the lines that are etched into their face. So if someone's smiling all the time, I guarantee you've met people before, you'll see these little crow's feet from a natural smile that are kind of etched because they live that life and they're kind of happy all the time. If somebody's angry all the time, you're going to see these two little muscles right here pulling together. This is called the glabella. You're going to see kind of an etching right there. If somebody's really social, you're going to see more lines on the forehead develop because our forehead is our social billboard, and that's how we communicate emotion. So people are less likely to trust someone just instinctively if their forehead is covered up. This is how we communicate, like, I enjoy your presence, hello, good morning. If you raise your eyebrows when you talk to a person, and you could try this as an experiment today, if you just raise your eyebrows when you say hello, 90% of people will reflect back that eyebrow raise without knowing that they even did it. So instinctively programmed into human beings.
I want to play you this fascinating exchange between Tucker Carlson and Chris Cuomo on why they think the Trump administration is having such a hard time releasing the JFK files. It's fascinating because I think Tucker knows why. He knows he can't say it, but he kind of indirectly hints at it at the very end if you pay super close attention.
What is that? Why have these been secret for so long?
Why don't they put it out? Because institutions protect themselves, Tucker, as we both know.
Really?
And there's clearly information in those files that are going to make the CIA look bad.
Just the CIA?
Well, whatever. Different agencies.
No, not whatever. I mean,
I don't know because I haven't seen it.
Well, so here's,
but it could be the FBI, it could be the CIA.
Okay, so I've always thought that. And then in January, there was a scramble over who's going to get what jobs in the new administration. And at one point, there was someone who was being discussed for a job in the intel world, and a member of the SSCI, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and Intel Committee, went to the people making the decision and said, you cannot hire this person because this person will be certain to push for the release of the JFK files. So this is in 2025, less than 2 months ago. And you have a sitting member of the United States Senate whose main goal is to keep those files secret. And then you have to ask yourself, why? Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't actually make sense. The story doesn't make sense. And by the way, we have the file numbers of most of the files that have not been disclosed. So it's like Trump issues an executive order on January 23rd saying you're going to release this stuff. They kind of can't not release it. And yet now it's the first week of March and they haven't released it. So pressure is currently being applied on the administration not to release those files.
It seems that way.
By whom?
I don't know.
And the CIA has already been through 50 years ago, the Church Committee hearings, 1975, where we sort of know they were assassinating people, dosing people with acid, all this stuff. It's like the CIA has already been discredited. So if you're telling me that 6 weeks ago, a member of the United States Senate was trying to keep someone out of a job in order to keep these files secret, that is to protect the CIA, I don't believe that for a second.
So what do you think it is?
I don't know. But this is, there's no one at the CIA who's involved.
Then.
Actually, who's involved in the Kennedy assassination. There's no one in America who's involved in the Kennedy assassination.
That last part, did you catch it? He says that there's nobody alive in America who was involved in the JFK assassination thing, meaning that there is no domestic institution to protect. There is no individual here in America that they need to protect. And clearly, perhaps there is some kind of foreign entity that could be implicated if those files were to be released. And I'm pretty confident in saying that if it was China, Iran, Russia, Saudi Arabia, or any of those kinds of countries who would be implicated if those files came out, those files would have come out 62 years ago. There's really only one country in the entire world that America will never point fingers at, no matter what they do. And for the record, I don't know which one.